Welcome to Ghana, sir.
Thank you.
We've just had a successful conference with the people of Ghana. There were several questions about entrepreneurship. But if I want to get into sports business, what sort of advice would you give to me?
Very good. The most important word you used there was business. Sport is a business. It's a global business. Okay? Most of us think of sport in terms of the output. How many people think of it as a business? Okay? And there are many aspects of the business. Okay? We could spend all day talking about the business of sport. Okay? We, for example, are in the business of broadcasting sport. Okay? So it's a very expensive end of the game because we have to buy sports rights. We have to bid and win sports rights. For example, very few people know that from next year, we own the FA Cup. Okay? We won the rights to the FA Cup. We will be the broadcasters this year continentally of the World Cup, the FIFA World Cup. We will carry that on Kwese. You're looking for the FIFA World Cup next June? You'll get enough Kwese because we're the only ones you'll be able to get it on. But we had to go to a bidding contest with other television broadcasters and win the right. So we will broadcast this World Cup and we'll broadcast the next one. Okay? We'll also broadcast the Euros. So we are holding on to the rights for the Euro qualifiers and the Euros from next year. So it's a business, but of course, even if you look at one of our businesses that people don't even think of as a business, think about Kwese ESPN. Have you seen our website, Kwese ESPN? Okay, it's a joint venture between us and ESPN, who are the biggest broadcaster of sport in the world. It's a website. You can go onto it with your phone. Okay, but you will see that as you look at the website, without even paying any attention, there's advertising in the background. Okay, so we generate money from advertising revenue on that website, but we have to make sure that our sports journalists are gathering the information that is interesting. So we cover on that website sports from across the continent, and it is the biggest sports website on the African continent. We've got millions of users. Okay, so it's a business. Okay, to the consumer, it's a website, but to the business person, it's a business. So sport is a business. And there are many entry points to that industry. Because once you start thinking of something as an industry, you don't have to be a broadcaster. You can be many components of the business, but it is a business. Okay?
Okay.
Sorry.
So, of football in Africa.
No, we haven't even started. But if you take soccer, okay, for us as Kwese Sports, as a broadcaster, we have to buy the rights from the Football Association of the African countries involved. Okay, it is for them to make the product as attractive commercially as possible. Okay, you take for instance the decision by CAF to move the African tournament from February to June. Fantastic. Because it makes it more attractive. Because what was beginning to happen was the top African players were refusing to participate in the tournament because they undermined their clubs. But if you move it to June, fantastic, isn't it? So sports federations have to think of their product. I'll give you an example. The Indian Cricket League, it's called IPL. It's a new sport. It's absolutely new, what they call the 2020 cricket. didn't exist 10 years ago. They just sold the sports rights for the next 5 years for $2.5 billion. And people won. We were at that contest. Okay? So these sports federations could be packaging their product much more interesting for broadcasters, for viewers, etc., etc. So there's a lot of work to be done in the area of African sport to turn it into a commercial product. And even for the consumer, because for us, for example, as a broadcaster, you say, well, are you willing to pay as much for your own national side as you're willing to pay for the English Premier League? Okay, because people say, okay, I'm happy to see, but I'm not happy to pay for it. Those are attitudes that need to change. Okay, because there's no difference between the English Premier League and the Ghana League or any other league. Okay, it's just a question of how we market and develop the product. And we've got to be proud with our own product. But if there are no viewers, then broadcasters will go to what the customers are demanding.
So for instance, from a Ghanaian perspective, what do you think we must do to attract Econet to sponsor Ghana football?
Well, for a start, the rights are sitting with somebody else. So we can't do anything until that contract expires, because we have to respect the holder of that particular right at that particular time. So what happens is the rights are sold for a certain number of years. So we wait until they expire. The moment those rights expire, we put out. If the league approaches us, we compete. Oh, absolutely. Would I love to broadcast Ghana football? You wait. You see, one of the most interesting things about Ghana football is the fact that Ghana is one of the few football teams that are popular across Africa. There are people in other African countries will sit to watch the Ghana side because of what the Ghana side did in the World Cup. It's like the Cameroon side. But, I mean, I don't have to mention names of countries, but countries that haven't been successful can't be broadcast continentally. We broadcast continentally. Whatever you are seeing here is being seen across Africa. So we are very interested in teams like Ghana because we know they're attractive to the rest of Africa because of how well they did in that World Cup. Okay, so those are some of the issues. But allow him to say something.
So moving away from sports, we spoke about our regulators in terms of easing some of these challenges for young guys who want to enter into entrepreneurship.
Yes, look. It's hard, but it's not as hard as when I started. Okay, which means it's improving. There is a greater appreciation amongst governments in Africa than at any time before that they need to be doing something to empower young entrepreneurs if they're going to create jobs. Okay, so it's a collective thing. It begins with that process of creating an awareness and a consciousness, okay? And so it also requires you young entrepreneurs and media and so forth to be constantly promoting young entrepreneurs. The more people in the society link the creation of jobs and wealth with entrepreneurs, the more change takes place. Jobs don't come from someone going to the government to get a job. The best jobs come when there's an entrepreneur who hires somebody and begins to hire more and more people. But we also got to promote young entrepreneurs to be looking more at these new technologies, new ideas, internet companies, these kind of areas, because that's what will take you global.
Okay. let me. Okay, you spoke about entrepreneurs being disciplined, especially financially. Can you expatiate on that one?
What part of it do you want me to explain? Discipline is the bridge between what you desire to do and its accomplishment.
Okay.
It's a bridge. Okay, you can be, if you're an entrepreneur, if you want to be an entrepreneur, okay, but at the same time you don't want to work in the evening, that's an indiscipline.
Financial discipline.
Yeah, but when it comes to financial discipline, there's no growth with no financial discipline. That's all I can tell you. You cannot grow a business when the business has two masters. It's competing with you for your needs, and it's competing for its needs. Because remember, the business needs the money to grow. But if you're coming in and you say, I want to build a mansion in the best part of Accra, okay, then the business has to give room. So it can't grow.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is basically on your baby. That's Kwese. Kwese. And now Super Sports came out with their competing brands.
I make it a principle never to compete, never to comment on a competitor. I never even mention names. Okay? All I can say is that I'm glad that finally we're helping the people of Ghana to get a proper price for these things. If you're feeling that scared at just the time I enter, I wonder how scared you'll be a year from now.
Thank you very much.
So please, I would like to find out what's going to be your advice for young entrepreneurs. Would you advise them to focus on building a brand or making profits? I'm asking that because sometimes when you come up with something, there may be others who have young entrepreneurs.
Look, the most important thing that when you're coming into a new industry, into an industry where there are more established people, okay, you should never be afraid about how big they are or how established they are. What you've got to focus on is what innovation are you bringing that is going to disrupt and change the situation. But if you're coming to do exactly what the incumbent is doing, you will always struggle. Okay? You notice, if I may mention the example of Kwese, isn't it? Was I aware that there is an incumbent there? Of course I'm aware there's an incumbent who's virtually a monopoly. Okay? But I've got to come in with innovations. So for instance, I gave you Kwese Free Sport. Okay? We have millions of Ghanaians, millions, watching Kwese Free Sport. It's a 24-hour free sports channel, but it's actually one of 7 sports channels that we have. But that channel is free. It is broadcast for free. And guess what? We give you free English Premier League. Okay, and guess what? If you have a decoder and you don't have money, turn on your decoder. Kwese Free Sport is still there. Okay? It's an innovation, isn't it? So you have to, I'm giving it as an example for you to see an innovation. We've just made a decision that anyone with a Kwese decoder can watch 5 channels for free. So you don't need to pay anything. You've got 5 free channels. But if you want more, you can add them. But you know what? We had to create another innovation. We said, okay, you can have 5 free channels. Okay, but if at the weekend there's something you are seeing on a pay channel, you pay for 3 days. No contractual obligation. You see, it's innovation that you use to push your way in. Okay, so you don't have, if you are struggling, you need to revisiting your innovation side. What are we doing to innovate more is what the young entrepreneur must always be doing. Okay, but once you make some profit on a business or on a contract, put the money back into the business. Let the business hold the money. You don't do a job make some profit, you disappear to build something, buy a car, and so forth, then you won't grow because you remain at the same size. But if you use the profit, that's what I was trying to say in there, use the profit for the next 3 or 4 years, just keep your head down. You don't have to show anybody anything. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. Just keep using your profits. When you do turn to use your profits, they'll be so big that you won't have to worry about it anymore. Okay? So the thing is, it's like child spacing, huh? Allow the business to grow strong first before you try and do it. Even starting a new venture. Okay? If you've only been doing your business for 3, 4 years, somebody comes and says, no, I have a good idea. You say, please wait. I need to make this one strong first. Okay? When you've really got that strong, new ideas don't go away. There'll be even new ones better than what someone brought you. Those are part of the disciplines of business that we talk about. It's both financial discipline. I pointed out earlier that one of the disciplines is pay yourself a salary so that you know how much your salary is not your profit. That's not your salary. Your salary is something you pay, same time you pay all your workers, you pay yourself, and you pay yourself last. Your workers first.
Thank you very much, sir.